Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to True American History. Here, we dive into the truth behind history. As we continue to look into the influences of America, we must go back before the establishment of the United States. Where did these influences come from? Why are they important? Let's take a journey back to the early 13th century. Magna Carta and papal authority. On June 15, 1215, King John of England placed his seal on the Magna Carta at Runnymede. The barons compelled him not to bring democracy, but to restrain the king's abuses. Just weeks later, on August 24, 1215, Pope Innocent III annulled the charter. He called it illegal and unjust, and reminded Christendom that John had already submitted England to papal authority in 1213. This meant that, in theory, England had become a papal fief. This is a well-documented fact. But whether papal possession endured for centuries is contested. By the 14th century, English monarchs ignored papal claims, and after the Reformation, the issue was largely moot. The English Reformation, 1534. The Act of Supremacy declared Henry VIII to be the only supreme head on earth of the Church of England. This severed ties with Rome, triggered by his marital dispute with Catherine of Aragon. The long-term effect was profound. The crown became head of both church and state. Dissent grew. And the Puritans, later migrating to America, were direct products of this break. The Vatican and the Holy See. Vatican City itself did not exist until 1929 under the Lateran Treaty. Before that, the Papal States and the Holy See governed Catholic affairs. Today, the Holy See is the central governing body of the Catholic Church. The Pope, elected by the College of Cardinals, holds office for life and exercises supreme executive, legislative, and judicial power. Under international law, the Holy See is recognized as a sovereign entity, even maintaining United Nations observer status. This is fact, not speculation. The Jesuits, 1540. Founded by Ignatius Loyola and approved by Pope Paul III, the Society of Jesus became the intellectual and missionary arm of the Catholic Church. They taught, they advised kings, and they defended Catholic doctrine. Admirers praised them as educators. Critics accused them of being political agents of Rome. This gave rise to the nickname the Black Pope for their superior general. Historical fact: they were suppressed in 1773 under European pressure, but restored in 1814. Secret societies, nobility, and the United States Constitution. In Europe, powerful orders, the Knights of Malta, the Jesuits, later Opus Dei, and fraternal groups like the Freemasons created networks of influence. Members were knighted with titles of nobility, foreign honors tied to achievement and rank. But in America, the founders were wary. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the Constitution forbade titles of nobility. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States. In 1810, Congress even proposed a Titles of Nobility Amendment, which would have stripped citizenship from anyone accepting such honors. It fell short of full ratification. But the core prohibition remains law to this day. Freemasonry's arrival in America. In 1717, the Grand Lodge of England was formed, formalizing Freemasonry into a structured fraternity. At that time, only 2 degrees existed: entered apprentice and fellowcraft. Around 1725, a third was added, the Master Mason degree, built upon the allegory of Hiram Abiff and the Temple of Solomon. By the 1730s, Freemasonry crossed the Atlantic. Lodges took root in Boston, Philadelphia, and Charleston, where leaders gathered to discuss ideas outside the control of church or crown. On July 30th, 1733, Boston became home to the first officially chartered lodge, with Henry Price appointed Provincial Grand Master. From there, Freemasonry spread rapidly along the seaboard. By the mid-17th century, higher degrees arrived. The Scottish Rite from France and the Caribbean, Royal Arch Masonry from Irish and Scottish traditions, and later, the York Rite. Several founding fathers were active Freemasons. George Washington, initiated in 1752. Benjamin Franklin, who published America's first Masonic book, and John Hancock of Boston. Yet not all were Masons, and their involvement varied in depth. Freemasonry mattered because it offered colonists a model of equality, fraternity, and moral independence. Its symbols of compasses, squares, and light blended seamlessly with Enlightenment ideals of liberty and reason. The federal capital and Masonic symbolism. On July 16, 1790, Congress passed the Residence Act, creating the Federal District on the Potomac. President Washington appointed Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, a French-born Freemason and Revolutionary War veteran, to design the city. His plan: broad avenues radiating from key points, a ceremonial core linking the Capitol and the President's House, and grand spaces for the people. Some elements are fact. Pennsylvania Avenue linking executive and legislative power. The National Mall envisioned as a commons for all citizens. Circles and diagonals creating deliberate focal points. Other elements are debated. Claims of pentagrams in the street grid, alignments with the star Sirius, and esoteric patterns. What is certain is that L'Enfant and his peers were steeped in Enlightenment ideals and familiar with Masonic iconography of balance, geometry, and light. By November 17, 1800, Congress moved into the unfinished Capitol. Jefferson, insisting on classical roots, named it the Capitol after Rome's Capitoline Hill. The symbolism was deliberate. America as the heir of Republican Rome. Why it matters. The federal capital became the physical expression of the founding generation's vision, a compromise to unify the states, a showcase of Enlightenment urban planning, and a stage of symbols, classical, Republican, and Masonic, proclaiming that America was not a provincial outpost, but the successor to great civilizations of the past. As we've seen, the creation of the federal capital was more than politics and architecture. It was layered with ideals, symbols, and mysteries. But the story doesn't end with L'Enfant's design. In our next episode, we step inside the United States Capitol and uncover the symbology woven into its very walls. The United States Capitol and the symbology within, coming up. This concludes today's lesson. We must know the truth about our country and our history. Come back next week for our next exciting topic into true American history to help us out. Please subscribe to never miss a lesson. Hit like if you have learned something new that was not taught in school. Also, please share with others who love history, love our country, or want to know the truth versus myth. Thank you, and we will see you next week. God bless. This video is brought to you by Indigo-Enterprises Limited.